Hi, everybody. It's Michael Leveris with JurisQ.com with Alla Kurolapnik, a divorce attorney. Alla, welcome back.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. And of course, at JurisQ.com, we are a legal network where we bring you attorneys to answer your commonly asked legal questions. And one question that is very, I would say, a little obscure, not everybody knows about it, is post-nuptial agreements. Prenups before getting married, that's a part of our popular culture. However, post-nups are not as much. So I want to ask Alla, and Alla does, of course, divorces with mediation. That's the goal, to have a mediation. How post-nuptial agreements are effective, why they are created, how can you convince the other party, if need be, to enter into one, and how mediation plays out. I know it's a three-pronged question. So Alla, let's see how you do.
Okay, so let's talk about postnups. So look, postnups are a little bit more, substantively wise, they're not, tricky, because you're dealing with the same common core issues that you would deal with in a prenuptial agreement and in a divorce agreement and in a separation agreement, right? The core issues are the same. The question really is your fact pattern. And your fact pattern depends on the circumstances of the parties. What's happening in that family, the family dynamics, and what's driving these people to now consider this move. I've had couples in the past where I've represented a client who came to me for a prenuptial agreement, but because of time constraints, we weren't able to finalize it in time. And those people did a postnuptial agreement. Okay. So we did that.
And to clarify, postnuptial is an agreement after you're already married. Then you negotiate and enter into one.
Let me break it down. So a postnuptial agreement is an agreement that two people enter with respect to various financial issues, right? After they after they marry and prior to a divorce, right?
Sure.
With a postnuptial agreement, you get to maintain the same household and live together, right? There's no need to separate. But what you do is you're securing your respective rights and rights to certain separate property or contractual rights dealing with financial issues before a divorce happens. So it's entered into or becomes valid or enforceable after the parties marry, right?
So Alla, I just want to ask you, so usually do you see people enter into postnuptial agreements when they're already thinking and considering divorce, like actually considering it?
Sometimes we have to flush that out. So I just had a conversation the other day where, a potential client came to me and said, look, I just found out my wife's cheating on me. I'm heartbroken. It's a 30-year marriage. We have 2 grown children together. I'm not really sure what to do here. I kind of told her, that I want to stay in the house. I know she's not going to be able to pull the house. I'd like to keep the house, settle out the finances. And I said, okay, so I understand from the financial perspective what you want to do, but emotionally, what is it that you want to do? Do you think there's a possibility for the two of you to work out your problems? How did you find out about, the infidelity? Did you hire a detective? Because then you must have been suspecting something, a private investigator. Did she tell you about it? Did you catch her in the act? Because all that makes a difference about your next steps, right? This is your emotional state of mind. So he said, well, she actually told me about it. I suspected, and she told me about it. And I said, okay, well, she goes, he said to me, she didn't feel remorseful. That was the most upsetting thing to me. I said, okay, I understand that. And he goes, based on that, I don't think that I'm going to be able to stay with her. So I said, okay, then a postnuptial agreement probably wouldn't be the right thing for you. Let's consider a separation agreement to give your mind that space to settle into where you are. And then you could live with that for a year. You could live separate and apart. You could resolve the financial issues.
Right.
And then we can consider the divorce.
Okay.
So again, these are the kind of things you really flush out. I had another gentleman who came to me and said his wife filed for divorce. Now she realizes the worst mistake of her life, that she absolutely loves him and she wants to be together. She wants to withdraw the action divorce. And I said, whoa, wait a minute now, without a postnuptial agreement, there you have assets to protect. Now that the divorce has started, the clock has started, running on the what's considered separate property or anything income that you earn after the divorce action. I said, if we're going to have valuations, you may be in a better position to evaluate those assets now as opposed to 2 years from now, right? Because this happened during the pandemic when, values of businesses were way down. Right? So I said, not without a postnup, we have to consider that. So again, these are the times that, I would advise a client, right? Once you flush out the issues, whether or not a postnuptial agreement is appropriate, a separation agreement is appropriate, or whether the parties, should divorce. And again, this can all be explored in mediation, but it makes it harder. Like in my perspective, I think that you should probably, if you're in this kind of a situation, speak to an attorney first. And if you and your attorney,
that's always very important,
figure out that maybe let's try mediation because it's going to take down the heat in the room and we can have a better chance at coming up with a proposal or a package that's kind of doable to everyone, then let's do that. In those circumstances, I would act as the consulting and review attorney, and I would simply have I'd refer a client out to a mediator, right? That's what I would do in that circumstance. So again, the postnuptial agreements, they're effective. They're, they're good to be able to, again, it's the last thing you want to do is be in a situation where you've accumulated, substantial wealth and, given your life to a marriage, right? And then fighting out about, issues in court because it breaks you as a person, right? It breaks your emotional state of mind and your mental state of mind. And it breaks your pocketbook, quite frankly.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, litigation is so expensive and it's litigious and it's just, it can be outright nasty.
And who are the only winners in the end? Attorneys.
I'm going to say probably the attorneys, but even then, look, I don't want to come home with a headache either, right? It's very draining, because
absolutely.
it's and you're having a stranger in a black robe decide the most intimate decisions of your life.
Also, I thought about this. You spend your life or substantial years of your life as a couple, right? So at some point, you guys loved each other, right? Maybe you have kids in common. Do you want to become enemies now through a court proceeding, which could often turn you into bitter enemies? I think it's much better to resolve things amicably, peacefully, in the room with your attorneys and mediators who can bridge the gap, right, without breaking your pocket, like you said. Alla, thank you so much. It was very important to realize the difference between a prenup and a postnup, how postnup can help, and the difference that I didn't even realize that there's a big difference between a postnup and a separation agreement. And you better talk to your attorney, somebody like Alla Kurolapnik, to understand what is better for you at your stage of your life. Because right now we're just talking in vacuum. Right now we're just talking about generally. But it's always best when you have these thoughts already. Maybe I should separate. Maybe I should divorce. Talk to an attorney right away because you want to preserve your rights and you want to carve out a map for yourself going forward, how to do it in the right way. So Alla, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it. Your phone number is in the bottom of the screen. If anybody has any questions, you're welcome to call. Until next time, have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks.